Long ago, Call of Duty was all anyone talked about. You just couldn't escape the hype, it was the shooter. And within the franchise, the Black Ops series always stood tall as a fan favourite. For many years, people debated between Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 and Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, but for me, Black Ops 3 is where it peaked. Now, I've played a lot of Call of Duties before Black Ops 3 came around, but I hadn't really sunk my teeth into any of them the way that I did with Black Ops 3. Especially when it came to zombies, Black Ops 3 was the one that properly hooked me. Looking back, it had everything: a futuristic flair, amazing maps, iconic weapons, and a zombies mode that felt like an entirely different game itself. And so on November 6th of 2015, everything changed. Black Ops 3 was a big change. It didn't shy away from shaking things up, and while earlier games kept things grounded with a sort of gritty realism, Black Ops 3 went full sci-fi and didn't look back. It really did push that futuristic angle far harder than Advanced Warfare did at the time. And this was a bold move for the franchise. You had jetpacks, wall running, underwater combat, boost sliding, basically every movement option you could think of. The introduction of specialists was by far one of the coolest parts of the game. Instead of just picking out your loadout, you also had to pick a character from a vast selection of specialists that had their own unique weapons or abilities. You had crazy tools at your disposal, like a Tesla gun, explosive bow and arrow, gravity spikes that just obliterated anyone in sight, and even invisibility. It added a whole new layer to the multiplayer, and you weren't just fighting with guns anymore, you were planning on when to pop your ultimate at the right time. And some of these specialists were absolutely insane because they could wipe out an entire team with just one press of a button. It really felt powerful and fresh, and more importantly, it felt fun. Now, there is no doubt that Call of Duty Black Ops 3 and Call of Duty as a franchise was trying to keep up with other games at the time. Overwatch was creeping into the scene, and everyone was looking at hero-based shooters. Black Ops 3 didn't necessarily copy, but it definitely adapted. It still felt like Call of Duty, but just a newer version of it. With all the new movement systems and mechanics, the maps had to change too. Treyarch clearly had a big task on their hands. You couldn't just slap wall running into a 3-lane map design and hope for the best. And they didn't do that. Instead, they tried to build environments that let the movement shine a little, while still keeping that familiar structure. Let's be honest, we would all wall run wherever we could, not just where the map wanted us to. Genuinely, one of my most favourite memories of Black Ops 3's multiplayer is using the gravity spikes. I remember wall running and then using the gravity spikes and wiping out an entire team. Black Ops 3 just hit different in that regard. Certain maps really stood out to me, maps like Aquarium, Breach, EVAC, Redwood, and Hunted. Just hearing those names brings back memories. Redwood especially sticks in my mind. It felt enchanted. The whole level design mixed with the game's brighter colour palette made the world pop in a way that older Call of Duty games just never really pulled off. The game wasn't gritty and grey, just that colour palette departure made everything feel fresh. And what use would multiplayer be without weapons? Because Black Ops 3's weapons hit differently. Literally. Now, not necessarily from a stat perspective, but from a feel perspective. Guns like the Man-O-War had a deep, heavy sound and feel, and it felt powerful. And then you have the KRM, which just felt like you got a guaranteed one-shot if you were anywhere near a target. No matter what gun you were using, each gun felt punchy. And combine that with the specialist system, and it gives the player a real sense of power. You weren't just some futuristic soldier sprinting around the map with a gun. There was a real power fantasy with Black Ops 3, more than any COD before it and any COD after it. Just something about the sound design for those guns just hits the right spot of my brain. But let's not kid ourselves, okay? Zombies is where Black Ops 3 truly shines. It wasn't just a side mode anymore, it was a full-blown standalone experience with enough content to rival full games. And essentially, it basically birthed a whole new era of zombies. For one, you have boss fights that completely changed the vibe of Easter eggs. It wasn't just about doing some obscure steps anymore, you were actually working towards a climax. That sense of gravity and narrative payoff was something that the franchise hadn't really seen before. Then of course you have Gobblegums. Love them or hate them, they added a whole new layer to the mode. You could now essentially cheat your way through the game by giving yourself abilities like keeping perks after you go down, spawning power-ups, teleporting, or even becoming invisible. For casual players, it made zombies more accessible. For hardcore fans, it opened up tons of new high-round strategies. Now, it wasn't a perfectly balanced system, but it did make things fun, and essentially at the end of the day, that's what mattered. I definitely think the art style shift definitely helped. Black Ops 3 Zombies looked vibrant. The lighting, the particle effects, the detailed textures, it just made the world feel more alive. And sure, it lost some of its creep factor, but let's be real, you can only get scared by zombies so many times before it wears off. And that trade-off was worth it because we got a zombies mode that felt modern, stylized, and fresh. Out of all of the zombies maps in Black Ops 3, Shadows of Evil is by far my favourite. I'm a sucker for Lovecraftian horror, and this map nailed the vibe perfectly. You had a 1920s city drenched in neon lights, jazz music echoing through the streets, and a constant sense of otherworldly mystery. It was weird, don't get me wrong, but also stylish, and felt completely unique. That being said, every single Black Ops 3 Zombies map had its own vibe. They all looked, sounded, and played differently. And this was a huge change from the earlier days of Call of Duty Zombies, where half the maps just felt like a slight reskin of one another. You know, like Derice, Ascension, Verrucht, all of these facility-based maps. Black Ops 3 did something way different. In Black Ops 3, the locations had colour, style, personality, and most importantly, they felt visually different from each other. Because you're in a castle one moment, a swamp the next, a destroyed city, and then outer space. Black Ops 3 really did it differently with the zombies mode, it really did. It showed that zombies did have real staying power. And of course, I need to talk about wonder weapons for a moment. Because Black Ops 3's wonder weapons were next level. You had 4 elemental bows, you had raygun Mark IIIs, and an Apothicon servant that you definitely should ask consent for before using. They weren't just cool, they were fun, they made you feel like a god, because Black Ops 3's wonder weapons, I don't know why, just seemed to be the most powerful out of the entire series. And again, I think that really brings home from the multiplayer, where Black Ops 3 just feels like a power fantasy for the player. Because even casual players could survive to high rounds with these things. And it really seems like Black Ops 3 empowered more players to go the distance and to do those quests to get those wonder weapons. And to be honest, it made the experience better for it. And the best part, unlike most modern Call of Duty titles, the weapons felt unique because they weren't recycled or reskinned. That being said, the raygun was in every single map and the Wonderwaff did return for the Giant, but at the end of the day, the raygun is a staple of the Zombies mode whatever game you're playing, and seeing as though the Giant was a remake, I think it's okay and more of a homage than anything else. By the end of Black Ops 3's life cycle, most people had moved on. The futuristic setting was wearing thin for the COD community and newer entries were already being teased, but then out of nowhere, Zombies Chronicles dropped. This DLC was a massive love letter to the community. It brought back 8 classic maps from World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, and they were all completely remastered with Black Ops 3's updated mechanics, graphics, and gobblegum support. Now granted, it really was a nostalgia trip for most people, but it genuinely breathed new life into the game. As suddenly, Black Ops 3 was buzzing again, the community was lit up. People who had moved on came crashing back, and you'll now often see Black Ops 3 will be sold with Zombies Chronicles rather than its standard season pass. And to be honest, that says a lot. Even to this day, people are begging for a Zombies Chronicles 2, because that DLC alone proved how strong the foundations for Black Ops 3 were. Because it could bring people back even though the next entry was out. So yeah, Black Ops 3's got some staying power. At the end of the day, Black Ops 3 had a ridiculous amount of content to choose from. A full campaign that had co-op 2, multiplayer, zombies, Dead Ops Arcade, free-running trials, and eventually Zombies Chronicles. There was something here for everyone. Black Ops 3 really delivered. And yes, Advanced Warfare, technically speaking, introduced the futuristic era of Call of Duty, but Black Ops 3 did it the best. It balanced power and playability, flashiness and fun, nostalgia and novelty. Even years later, it still holds up better than most of its successors. Truly, Black Ops 3 marked a turning point for Call of Duty. It took risks, and while not everything landed perfectly, the sheer ambition of it all deserves that respect. For me personally, it's a game that defined a decent chunk of my early gaming life. The memories, the maps, the music, the movement, it all just stuck with me. And yes, part of that is nostalgia, but even if you strip all of that out, Black Ops 3 still stands tall. Was Black Ops 3 perfect? No, not necessarily, but no games really are. But did it change the game and offer more content than any Call of Duty did before it? And did it deliver one of the best zombies experiences ever? Yes, absolutely. And for all those reasons and more, Black Ops 3 was the peak of Call of Duty, and I don't think that any other Call of Duty has topped it since. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, then subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.